and you don't want to fuck your brain up. But with that being said, man, before we get into this video, you know I need y'all to like, comment, subscribe, turn them post notifications on, fire on one of them things, sit back and relax, and let's enjoy this video. On my Gwen.
Things that you can do. And you don't have to pray like in a church. You just tell what you want and get it.
The inverted cross. Now this is satanic. This is a very generic symbol.
Heavy metal
that's
music.
Satanic upside down cross.
Mission Death Fest 1 is being
Staged at the Jackson Optimus Sports Arena. It was originally supposed to happen in Detroit, and the switch has some people in Jackson concerned the groups promote satanic worship.
Early in the 1980s, the satanic panic had started mainly in the United States and eventually into other countries throughout the late 90s. Some argue that it's still going on to this day. It was a moral panic that started due to rumors spreading across country that people were performing satanic rituals. And during the 80s,
oh yeah, in the 80s they was hella doing satanic shit. And that shit, like, if we're gonna be real, they've been doing satanic shit forever. Cause like, even in the Bible, like the devil playground is earth. I was gonna say America, damn near America, but it's earth. Like, God gave earth to the devil because he wanted heaven, but he couldn't get heaven, and he went against God, so sent that fallen angel down to earth. And that's why all this shit is crazy out here. But yeah, they been doing like satanic shit. 80s, they start going crazy with it to where it was like getting out there like publicly. Now, bro, they'll walk down the street parade full of satanic people in a parade and start praying to the devil in front of churches and shit nowadays. Live television. What? They'll throw doo-doo at your car and be like, you don't like Satan? Satan's king. Bah! And throw doo-doo at your car. Nowadays, this shit is real crazy now.
American pop culture was obsessed with the occult and satanic imagery, which led to many people believing that magic, heavy metal music, and role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons would infiltrate the minds of the youth, leading them to worship the devil. Some parents believe devil worshippers would roam around the streets looking for human sacrifice, doing drugs, and selling it to kids. The problem is none of these claims were able to be backed up since there was nothing to prove that these events had ever occurred, until the case of a teenager who went by the name the Acid King.
That nigga definitely like the devil. $1967? Damn.
In the quiet suburbs of New York's Northport community on Long Island, Ricky Castle was born. He was named after his father, Richard Dick Castle, who was a well-respected history teacher and football coach at Cold Spring Harbor High School. His mother, Lynn Castle, was a teacher as well. To avoid any confusion, I will be referring to Ricky's father by his middle name. Ricky's parents would later have more children, and Ricky would be the oldest, as he had 3 younger sisters. For some time, Dick and Lynn would describe Ricky to be the greatest kid in the world, and Dick believed his son had a bright future ahead of him. He would describe Ricky as a model child and a young athlete. As a young boy, he would wake up early in the morning to play football with his friends, and occasionally with his father. Though Ricky's bright future would soon start to fade away when he started the 6th grade, he would slowly become rebellious and started to smoke marijuana at the age of 11.
Damn.
And this was just the start of his interest in drugs, devil worship, heavy metal, and the occult. When Ricky was 13, he befriended a boy by the name of Jimmy Troiano in the 7th grade. The two met at school during football practice. Jimmy was someone who was a promising athlete as well, but was also rebellious just like Ricky. You see, Jimmy had been in juvenile hall before for almost a year and already had experience with using and selling acid. The two hang out quite often, experimenting drugs together. It started out with smoking marijuana to later graduating to stronger drugs like mescaline, LSD, and PCP. Eventually the two would begin skipping class.
Fucked up, going around murdering shit. Rock on, dude. Who gives a fuck, bro? Pass me an X pill, dude. 3 of them to be exact. Give me a triple stack, bro. Yeah, they was in there getting geeked up. They was doing smoking PCP, taking acid. Man, you might as well smoke meth. If we gonna be real, that mother. Hold on, I just ate some with some hot sauce. Now, nigga, goddamn. Woo! Yeah, they ready for crack. For sure, yeah. 100% chance they ready for crack. It just ain't been invented yet.
In football practice to meet up and do drugs. A classmate of Ricky's remembers him walking into art class and began drawing a dragon where he kept mentioning that the dragon was moving. Though this would just be the beginning. As his use of drugs increased, so did his anger problems. And during a football game, Ricky was ejected for an illegal hit he did on the opposing quarterback, and Ricky's father was angry.
That nigga off acid in football practice? Oh, yeah, he gone. Yeah, he gone, brother. You got doing acid at football practice is crazy. Knowing shit moving around and looking weird and flicky and like hell no. Yeah, it's a rap ditty for him.
Now I mentioned Ricky would play football as a kid, but Jimmy stated that Ricky hated football. He says it's because Ricky never liked the sport at all and always made comments saying, "I hate this sport, I hate this game." Jimmy also added that Ricky only played football because his father would force him to. Over the years, the two would continue to use drugs and get high together. Ricky eventually stopped caring about school and football.
I never understood that. Like, why, like, as parents, like, as fathers, why y'all force y'all kids to play football? Like, I'm going to be real. Like, the kid you force to play football, when he get to practice, all the kids that want to play don't do nothing but pick on this nigga. I swear to God, you forcing this nigga to get bullied. Like, he comes to practice and we just hit him. Push him around. Bro, you suck. Why you out here? I don't want to be out here. My dad wants me out here. I don't want to be out here. My dad wants me out here. We doing shit like that to him. Like, bro, if that nigga don't want to play football, he don't have to, bro. That shit, I get it. You know, you got them one older. Football teaches a lot about family and life. You're going to play. Man, fuck all that. Fuck all that. This nigga don't like football. He don't need to play it. Because he ain't learning shit out here, but how he finna come home and knock you across your shit.
And would ultimately drop out of high school when he turned 16. Ricky became well known for not only his use of hallucinogenic drugs, but selling them as well. Because of his reputation, the younger teens had looked up to him because he was always in possession of acid, and depending on his mood, he would allow these young teens to take a hit of his drugs for free. This is when he would begin to call himself the Acid King, and would start obsessing over the idea of devil worship and the occult. His former classmates have stated that Ricky would hang out a lot at cemeteries where he would smoke 10 bags of PCP so that he can get in touch with the devil himself and chant, "Satan, Satan, Satan." According to someone, they stated the following: Ricky was of the devil. When he was on acid, he'd go back into the dark woods, up in Aztecia, and he would talk to the devil. He said the devil came in the form of a tree, which sprouted out of the ground and glowed. And when he tried questioning Ricky about it, Ricky simply responded that he didn't like talking about it as people thought he was nuts. Ricky would show up at a library, picking up books on Satanism, wanting to learn more on the subject. Jimmy had said there were occasions where he'd be walking down the street and hear Ricky yelling out "Hell Satan" when walking by certain places.
Yeah, he was definitely satanic. He was a devil worshiper. And he always go to the motherfucking woods. That's why I don't be in the woods. For real, like anything they gotta do satanic, they always go to the woods. And the devil always makes himself appear as either some bad bitch or a tree or some shit that's like lovely. Now, you know how many times I done been to the woods, how many trees I done seen? How I'm supposed to know which one the devil? All these bitches look the same. See, you can't trust nothing.
Obsession with Satanism didn't come from reading books like the Satanic Bible, which he had expressed interest in, or people who claimed to be Satanist. Instead, it came from his love of rock and roll and heavy metal music. A former classmate had mentioned that he would begin to notice a change in Ricky's appearance, from having short hair and always smiling to having long hair and always wearing concert t-shirts. One of the popular spots Ricky and his friends would hang out a lot was the gazebo in the park down by the waterfront. Ricky's behavior would get worse and there was no sign of him getting any better. It was unbearable to his parents. Ricky's father had made a statement about his son's behavior, saying he became insubordinate to his teachers, then joined in a house burglary and began to get in trouble with the police. Ricky had told his father, "I enjoy the fantasy world of drugs. You can't stop me. I love drugs." He would scare his parents when they found out that he would write songs about Satan and would openly talk about his drug deals. He'll say things like, "Mom, I'm going down to get a few hits of meth. I'll be back for dinner." He even told his mother that suicide is the ultimate high. He even went as far to put ketchup on his arm and call his mother, yelling at her, "See what you made me do." And as her mother runs to check on Ricky, he would laugh when she sighs in relief when she realizes that it's not blood. They would often kick him out of the house whenever they were fed up with their son's behavior. Ricky would then occasionally live on the streets, cars, local woods, garages, backyards, and houses of friends. Ricky would discuss with a friend that he wanted to start a cult and eventually would create a loosely organized cult that referred to themselves as the Knights of the Black Circle.
Knights of the
The
Black
cult had
Circle.
formed-
You know how many motherfuckers went and started a cult? This is just this one person we talking about. In the 80s. We go to all the way till nowadays, bro. You know how many satanic cults it is out here? They sacrificing chickens and goat heads and babies and shit. Oh my mama. You got a nigga right now that's your friend. They come to your house and see your little sister and your little brother and all that, and he act weird around them for some reason. But then you like, when we in public, bro, this nigga like he a little different than when we was younger. He growing up to be a different person. You kind of low key don't know this nigga that much. That nigga plotting because he fucking with the devil. Get him out your house and keep him away from them little kids because they trying to eat them and shit.
Members: Ricky, Jimmy, Albert Quinones, and Gary Lauwers. A local by the name of Dan Carson stated, "They used to take animals down here and cut them up, burn them, and stuff like that."
Told you.
He goes on to say that he believes that Ricky was the biggest influence in the group. The younger teens who looked up to Ricky would go to his shack where he would ramble on about Satanism, but the kids didn't care about any of that. They really only looked for him because he was the only one who sold acid very cheap. His whole obsession with Satanism was irrelevant to them. Since Ricky wasn't living at home, he never reached out to his parents except for two reasons. One, he was in trouble with the law, or two, he was extremely ill. In the late fall of 1983, when Ricky was 16, he got arrested for digging into a colonial-era grave to steal a skull to be used in some sort of ritual. He was held in jail for a day or two and was then released.
That
He
nigga
wouldn't be
digging up
charged
your
until the following
cousin's
year in
grave so
April.
he can do rituals
And
and
at this
shit.
time, Jimmy was arrested for burglary and was sentenced to 8 months. Ricky's parents had tried to help him and sent their son to a drug rehab program at South Oaks Hospital, but to no avail. According to a local, he had talked to Ricky shortly after being released from the hospital. He says that Ricky got out by bullshitting the doctors. When he went in, they believed he worshipped Satan and shit. And he told doctors that he was fine, that he was gonna go back to school and doesn't believe in Satan anymore. And he bullshit the doctors so much they finally believed him and they let him go. Another local has said that he ran away from the hospital. When she saw him at the train station, she noticed Ricky's hair was now red to avoid being found. She asked Ricky,
"Red, nigga? You dyed your hair red so people didn't see you? Like, everybody in town hair ain't blonde and brown? Like, are you, like, nigga, did you know, nigga, we can see you, nigga? Like, you the only motherfucking redhead out here. And I can't find my son and you built just like him. Like, come on, bruh. Be for real."
"What's going on?" And he goes, "No way are they gonna lock me up. I'm not crazy." I was like, "I never said you were crazy, but maybe you need help with drugs." He said, "I do not." And then he started yelling, coming closer. I talked my way out of it. I think Ricky stopped living in 8th grade. In April of 1984, Ricky had a court hearing, so he would go back to his home where he would shower. His father wasn't thrilled seeing his son there, but he was nice enough to still drive Ricky to court. After the hearing, Ricky was dropped off near a convenience store where he would ask his father for some money. His father declined and Ricky would kick his car, leaving a dent on the passenger side door. And this is when Dick had disowned his son and banned Ricky from his home. He told Ricky to never come back nor to ever contact him or his family. With this, Ricky's use of drugs would only further increase.
Yeah, hell yeah, they was.
He and I were best friends. Okay, best friends. I was always there for him. Always back.
Ricky, Gary, and several other friends of theirs.
Oh, damn, I didn't know Ricky looked like that. Ricky looks scary than the motherfucker. Gary just looked like a kid that don't listen to his parents. Just, he bad. Like, I don't care, Mom. I want my skateboard at the fucking shop. I said I want vanilla ice cream, not fucking chocolate. That's what he looked like. He looked crazy than the motherfucker. Like, he done seen some shit, as in the devil. Because he called him. He the type nigga to go do work for the devil and don't want no money out of it. Like, I don't want to be rich or famous. I just want to be with you. And just give me all the acid that I can do in the world and all the meth. Like, that motherfucker look crazy. His hair look good, though. Shiny. But, fuck that.
Attended a party in the woods late at night. Ricky, being the acid king, had brought PCP with them. As the party went on, Ricky would eventually pass out from getting extremely high. As Ricky was passed out, his friend Gary wanted more PCP. So as Ricky was still unconscious, Gary stole 10 packets of PCP out of Ricky's pockets.
10?
When everyone woke up the next morning, someone informed Ricky that they saw Gary stealing the rest of his PCP while he was asleep.
Out there just
Ricky became
crackheads.
furious and confronted Gary, demanding he either gives his drugs back or pays them back. Gary refused that he had stolen any drugs from Ricky, but Ricky didn't believe him, so he had beaten him to a pulp. Gary would give Ricky back 5 packets of PCP. Since Gary only returned 5 out of the 10 he stole, this meant he owed Ricky $50, and Gary promised he would borrow the money he owed from his parents to pay him back. But Gary wouldn't keep his promise, and Ricky wasn't going to let this go. For the next few days, Ricky would continue to beat up Gary. The problem was that Ricky didn't even care about getting his money or drugs back. To him, this was all just to prove a point.
Yeah.
Locals have said that Gary was afraid of Ricky and always seen getting chewed up and constantly getting hit.
Fuck that, nigga. It's the principle behind this shit, nigga. You stole from me. I don't care. Honestly, bro, I agree with Ricky. I'm gonna be real. I agree with Ricky on this one. Like, I don't care. Y'all supposed to be best friends. Y'all don't let women, drugs, money, you don't let nothing get in between your friendship when it's somebody your best friend like your brother. These niggas got high and he got too high and was like, I need more. And you got so high to where you stole from your own brother, your own best friend. You took the shit out his pocket and then lied about it. Oh, my mama, you need your ass beat straight up. I don't give a damn. He worshiped the devil. I know the video about him, but he had all rights to beat this nigga ass. Yeah, you shouldn't. Now, kill him is crazy. I don't know about that. I ain't say kill him. I don't know if he killed him, but beat him up, yeah, and then be like, hey, bro, you owe me. And I don't even care if you really pay me back. But it's a principle behind this. You owe me. You gonna give me all my shit back. I'm gonna keep beating your ass.
His ass kicked. In one instance, someone saw Gary come out from behind a church. His jacket was ripped, cuts on one side of his face with blood dripping down. Another stated that she fixed his wounds up one time, his black eye and bloody nose. And Gary would tell her that Ricky was an asshole and that he bought a knife to protect himself because Ricky had told Gary that next time he was going to do more and it won't just be a black eye.
Facts.
A month later, Ricky was starting
back.
to get sick as he had pneumonia, so he went back to the home of his parents and asked for help. Despite what his father said of never coming back, Ricky's parents couldn't resist seeing their child in pain, so Ricky was sent to the Long Island Jewish Hospital. While Ricky remained in there, his parents wanted to have him institutionalized. They explained to the doctors about the grave digging incident, his daily use of PCP and other hallucinogens, suicide attempts / jokes, and his threatening behaviors.
I know that
But
shit hurt. Like, everything you do as a parent is to better your kids, and you trying your hardest to get this kid on the right path, and it's just like, you can't, to where you gotta put your son in a certain type of jail, hospital. Like, he's sick, but y'all want to make sure y'all, like, low-key lock this nigga up. Make this shit kind of like jail. I know it's a hospital, but make it like jail. Put some cuffs on this little nigga. That's crazy, bro. That sucks. That sucks, for real.
Psychiatrists didn't believe there was anything wrong with him. They said Ricky was antisocial, but was neither psychotic nor dangerous, so they let him go. Now that Ricky was back out again, he was still not done with Gary.
I love you. Do you love me?
On June 19, Jimmy was released from jail after serving 8 months. He met up with Ricky and Albert. The three were planning to go to the Aztecia Wood to get high, but what confused both Jimmy and Albert was when Ricky decided to invite Gary along. They believed maybe Ricky had finally let go of the whole drug incident.
Hell
The
no, they didn't
long.
let go. Look at that. That nigga's mouth still open. He just walking out of jail. He mouth still wide open. He ain't let go. That nigga ready. He said he loved drugs, not just like them. When you love drugs, you go to rehab and get right back on the same shit. When you love alcohol, you go to rehab, 2 weeks, come back, and right back on it. Your dumb ass didn't learn shit. If you gonna take your ass to rehab, go in that motherfucker and learn something. Stay there. Don't, once you get to sweating and itching, like, fuck that, I gotta go home. I gotta fuck it. No, nigga. You in too deep. Stay in that motherfucker and get your mind right. Get yourself right. You niggas is out here bullshitting.
They believed maybe Ricky had finally let go of the whole drug incident. The four headed their way deep into the secluded woods at 8 p.m. They made a fire, and according to Jimmy, they took somewhere between 30 to 40 hits of PCP and LSD altogether. Now, these four have hung out in the woods at night before, but this night though was a bit different than the others. Reason was there were 3 crows that would circle around right above the teenagers' campfire. Ricky noticed this, and keep this in mind as it will be important later on. As the night went on, the fire would slowly die out, so Ricky would suggest using Gary's jacket as a kindling. Gary would refuse to throw his entire jacket into the fire, but agreed to cut off and use his sleeves, and later his socks. As the fire started to die out again, Ricky suggests to cut Gary's hair to keep the fire alive. Gary would refuse, but Ricky didn't listen. He didn't want to hear a no from Gary, so Ricky got up and Jimmy held Gary down. Ricky cut out clumps of Gary's hair using the pocket knife he carried. Once cutting it, he threw it onto the fire and Gary said, "I'm getting bad vibes that you want to hurt me." Ricky replied, "Hurt you? I don't want to hurt you. I want to kill you."
Oh my
Ricky
God.
immediately pounced on Gary and bit him on the neck, then proceeded to stab him somewhere between 17 to 36 times.
Damn!
During the stabbing, Ricky had shouted to Gary, "Say you love Satan," and Gary wouldn't comply to his request. Instead, he would shout back, "I love my mother." Each stab, Ricky would tell him to say it, but Gary never does. Once Gary was dead, Ricky would gouge out his eyes.
Damn! That shit made my allergies kick back in. I'm finna take me some Zyrtec in a minute. Damn! Like, they don't want to hurt you, brother. I don't. I want to kill your dumb ass. And jumped on his neck. Bit this nigga in the neck. Bit him in the neck. And then started stabbing him. Say you love Satan. Stabbing him. He like, hell no, nigga, I love my mama. Nigga, I love God. And killed him. And then cut his eyes out. Like, what the fuck?
Some people believe Ricky had gouged his eyes as some sort of satanic ritual, and Ricky had said that the crow is above cod. He believed Satan manifested as a crow, and the call was a sign that the devil was pleased of his doing. And where was Jimmy and Albert during all of this? Well, we don't really know. You'll see why. For 2 days, nobody knew about the murder of Gary for 2 reasons. One, his body was deep into the secluded woods, so the chances of him being found were slim. And 2, he was a frequent runaway, so nobody really questioned about his whereabouts. But good old Ricky couldn't keep this to himself. He would later start bragging to his friends that he killed Gary as a sacrifice to Satan, and Jimmy would tell him to stay quiet about it as he just wants to forget about it and move on. But Ricky didn't listen. According to a local by the name of Rich, he says he saw Ricky one night, and Ricky told him that he killed Gary,
Hold on, y'all. I
but
gotta
Rich
get
didn't
right.
believe
These
him.
allergies ain't playing. Whew, alright, y'all. I had to get right, bro. Them goddamn. That damn. Them allergies ain't no game. Nigga, I had to open up the window in this hole. Y'all probably can hear the background. Can y'all? That bitch like, it's cause that loud ass fucking meter thing out there going. But nigga, if you got allergies, you know what I'm talking about. That shit ain't no game. That shit whack as fuck. But if you don't got allergies, nigga, fuck you. You healthy motherfucker. Better do it.
The next night, Rich decides to see the supposed dead body because he thought Ricky was bullshitting as usual. As they head into the woods, he tells Ricky, "Rick, what the hell did you kill? A fucking cat?" And then Ricky points and says, "There it is." Rich finally saw Gary's lifeless body covered with a thick pile of maggots and leaves on top. Rich turned around and quickly ran off. He says Ricky seemed calm about the whole thing. As he meets with him back at the park, Ricky tells him, "See, I told you." And when asked why he did it, he responds with, "For kicks." For 2 weeks since the brutal killing, Ricky would continue to brag and show his friends Gary's body. But as days went by, both Jimmy and Ricky's paranoia would slowly increase. They returned back into the woods to move Gary's body in a shallow grave. His body was badly decomposed, and as they tried to move him, Gary's head came off. Afterwards, the thrill of the murder would start to fade for Ricky, and he was back to being bored. Jimmy and Ricky would leave Northport and plan a road trip to head to California. They planned on making a career by selling drugs. The next day on July 1st, a 16-year-old girl would call the police to report of Gary's body, but the officer who answered the call didn't see anyone by the name of Gary being reported missing. When the officer asked what the girl's name was, she quickly hung up. The officer simply dismissed it as some prank call.
You know what's crazy? Like, if he would have just been like, let's say he was a murderer and he didn't want to like get caught. He didn't care about the giggles and he just was like, I like killing and I don't want to go to jail. He could have got away with that murder easily. It wasn't nobody looking for bro because they already think he a runaway and he do drugs. He just a delinquent. That's what the world think about him. He a delinquent. Well, bro, we not worried about him. So they don't even know he dead. They don't care. Bro had this nigga deep in the woods and he was already fully decomposing and still ain't nobody came across us or nothing. No animals at least, nothing. Bruh, that body was gonna be gone. All he had to do was burn the clothes. That body was gonna be gone. Like, bruh.
At this point, Ricky and Jimmy were 160 miles away from their hometown before they needed more money to be able to progress their road
that body
trip.
would have been found like
they
now.
sold some mescaline and bought a junker car for $50. Back in Northport, on July 4th, 3 days after the call, the police decided to go to the woods to look for Gary, as they were confirmed by his mother that she hasn't seen Gary in a while. She even stated,
Alright, that shit too loud. I gotta close that. Shut the fuck up.
that she once got a phone call by someone with this eerie voice saying, "You'll never see your son again because I just killed him." Police used 4 canines and eventually found a pile of bones, a denim vest, pants, and a pair of shoes. Since his body was out in the woods for a little over 2 weeks, his body had been completely drained of blood and his face was practically gone. As police discovered what was left of Gary, Ricky and Jimmy decided to drive back home to party with their friends on 4th of July. The two partied, got high on acid, and eventually both would sleep in their vehicle. The next morning, police got a call of a suspicious vehicle. When an officer arrived, he noticed it was both Jimmy and Ricky asleep in their vehicle, so the officer called for backup since they were considered as highly dangerous. Backup arrived and arrested the 2 teenagers. They were still sluggish as they were still high from the drugs, but as they started to sober up, Ricky went back to his old, cocky ways.
Crazy as hell.
Ricky first told police that he didn't know anything about the killing and that he hasn't seen Gary in some time. But later, Ricky would confess to the murder, and the chief who interviewed him said he sounded so proud of what he had done, stating he got what he deserved. Ricky would sign a confess statement that he did the killing.
Look at this shit here. How tall is this motherfucker? Like 6'3"? Biting motherfuckers on their neck? My nose all stopped up and shit. I'm still gonna get on this nigga. I done bite niggas on their neck, 6'3" demon. And you look like you done peed on himself a little bit. Damn, he don't even care about going to jail. He wanted to. He like, yeah, now I'm gonna go in here and kill somebody in here. Like, damn.
And Jimmy played no role into the murder. At least, that's what he told Jimmy. Because in reality, Ricky was lying. He actually told police this: "I was holding him on the ground and Jimmy kicked him in the ribs. I looked up at Jimmy and Jimmy indicated to cut his throat. I then took out my knife and stabbed Gary. The knife went all the way in. Somehow, he got away and ran through the woods. I caught him and brought him back to where the fire was. I dropped my knife when I chased him. and Jimmy Troiano found it and gave me the knife, and I stabbed Gary in the back a whole bunch of times. Me and Troiano dragged Gary back in the woods. We started covering him with leaves and he sat up. I bugged out, started to stab him in the face. I didn't count how many times. I'm not really sure. I don't know what I said, but I said a whole bunch of satanic things. Now this story went everywhere, and as you can imagine, the public were frightened, especially because of this murder linking to Satanism. But police didn't call this case satanic, but rather a drug-related murder. Ricky had seen himself on the news that night, and everyone in jail knew what Ricky was in there for. Jimmy says Ricky was starting to feel scared because he didn't know what the inmates might feel about him killing in the name of Satan. Gary's dad talked to the news wanting to distance
You should have thought about that before you went to stabbing niggas in their back, chin, chest, and face. Bro had to die crazily. Like, getting stabbed up, you trying to come alive, and you getting stabbed all in your back, and then you finally finna die, and then you kind of wake up like, and niggas start stabbing you in your face. Stabbing you in your face is crazy. Like, oh my God, bruh.
Done from Satanism.
My son was not involved in any drugs.
And then cut his eyeballs out.
He was fearful of this kid, Ricky Castle, because he had been acquainted with him maybe at a previous occasion from school and apparently also after school. So he was fearful of him, and it is my belief that he was abducted, that they were just waiting for him. They saw my son as their victim that they needed, and abducted him somehow or other.
As the night went on, Ricky started to feel pressured, and within less than 48 hours, Ricky grabbed his bedsheet and hung himself, leaving his friend Jimmy all by himself.
Oh, that nigga's a pussy. He said he hung himself? Ah, that nigga's a bitch. How you gonna do all that killing, worship the devil, do all that, and then kill yourself? Cause you scared. Like, nigga, you literally talk to the devil and you scared of jail, nigga? Come on, bro. This nigga suck. Yeah, you super suck. He didn't even get to suffer or nothing. Well, he probably in hell now, but we don't get to see it. You know, we don't even know, you know? If that shit even real. It's real, but we don't know. Damn.
This now meant that Ricky's statement was useless and inadmissible. Albert had agreed to testify against Jimmy in return for immunity. Jimmy had signed 2 confessions that he later recanted. People thought this would be an open and shut case, but there was just one big problem.
Eyes were cut out in what county police say was a satanic ritualistic about a devil-worshipping cult.
Jimmy's attorney, Eric Nyberg, talked to Jimmy asking his version of what had happened. He told Eric a strong, convincing story. They arranged another meeting and asked Jimmy again his version of the story. Again, Eric says it was a strong, believable story. And the problem? It was different than the first one, and he did it again a 3rd time. So Eric decided to take him back to the scene of the crime, and again, a different yet very believable story. Eric calls him out on it and asks why is he constantly changing his story. Jimmy replied, "Mr. Nyberg, when the trees are melting and the stars are racing across the sky, it's hard to remember what happened." This is when Eric had a plan and knew how to win this case. The trial would begin a year later. In court, prosecutors brought Albert on stand and made him tell his side of the story. Albert's version was that Jimmy was the one who held Gary down while Ricky repeatedly stabbed him, and this was supported by medical examiners.
Something like 22 stabbing or cutting type wounds going up and down the back, the skull injury.
That's that acid, man. Acid and devil don't mix. And that shit, bro. Bro, if you take shrooms, and you can take certain ones, you can take it by yourself, you can take it with your cousin, you can take it at daytime, take it at night. But if you take it at night and just take it and just really go sit outside, depending on what your mindset is, you be thinking some crazy shit. I ain't gonna lie, bro. Cause I done took shrooms and was happy that the motherfucking was just thinking of the most wonderful shit. Then I was like going through some shit, and I took the shit. It ain't do nothing make me matter. And I ain't gonna lie, I was like, nigga, whatever nigga, you gonna go do it. That's what I'm saying. So like, man, don't do them drugs, bro. Leave that shit alone, bro. For real.
Injuries were in the facial area, something like 7 or 8 wounds there. One was a little lower down just above the upper teeth, but mostly they were in the region of the left eye. This pattern of wounds certainly would be what you'd expect if someone were being held immobile and then someone else were doing the stabbing, who's right there just going up and down.
But of course, this is when the big problem takes place. Albert admitted to taking at least 10 hits of LSD prior to the killing, so this begs the question, is his testimony even reliable? If Jimmy can barely remember what had happened, how is Albert any different if he was just as high as the rest? To be able to prove this, Albert admitted to police that he saw a lion in the woods that night, so in court, Eric asked him if he saw a lion that night, to which Albert responded he did not. Eric tells him, "But didn't you hear? There was a circus in town and a lion escaped." And Albert says, "You mean the lion was really there?" This completely destroyed Albert's credibility, and it continues to get worse. On cross-examination for the first time, Albert admitted that prior to the attack, he had taken part in attacking Gary by kicking and punching him along with Ricky and Jimmy, and Albert would then recant his statement and said he was positive Jimmy never held Gary down. Eric would now make his closing statement to the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen, I humbly and respectfully submit that only God Almighty knows or will ever know what happened that night. If Jimmy Troiano or Albert Quinones deserve to be punished, it is the Almighty to make that decision." 3 days later, the jury returned with a verdict. Jimmy Troiano was found not guilty for second-degree murder.
They put that shit in God's hand, and God was like, bro, little bro really ain't doing that. Little bro just out there trying to get high on some shit, goddamn, chase the strike, goddamn, watch some shit melt. And little mama over here, goddamn, went crazy on the nigga ass, goddamn, started stabbing the nigga ass. Stabbing the nigga ass. Strike had to, goddamn, push some depression and some fear in that nigga, goddamn, so he can kill himself. But when he kill himself, I'm gonna look him dead in the eye and be like, no, you can't come up here. I'm gonna shit his ass, goddamn, you know what I mean? Hell. And then, like, I got little bro. Little bro got stabbed the fuck up. Stabbed the fuck up. So I got little bro right here. He in a mansion right now, goddamn, doing his thing. And then, you see what I'm saying? If God was from Atlanta.
Threats have forced them to post guards at the homes of 5 community residents as a grand jury continues.
Niggas be talking to ad-libs like a motherfucker.
Once it was all over, the media were going after rock and metal bands like Alice Cooper, Judas Priest, and AC/DC, and my biggest guess is because these were commonly known as Ricky's favorite bands. After all, he was wearing an AC/DC shirt the day of his arrest. They also blamed role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons. People in Northport were worried that the killing would leave a bad reputation, but after many years, it was calm, quiet, and nothing like this ever happened again. Of course, this didn't stop people from believing devil worshippers were out there, spreading the words of evil.
They definitely out there.
For healthy reasons. Man, what's healthy about selling a knife to business?
A motherfucker that looked like that couldn't convince me to do shit. You couldn't convince me to change my life around. And for the better. If you look like that, I'ma just be real. If I'm out here doing what I'm doing and you want me to do great and you come to me with a nigga like this, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. That nigga don't need to be on camera. Ugly mouth that. Ugly, just whole everything. Your whole face ugly. God damn. And then this motherfucker got the nerve to growl. The fuck was that?
Vicky!
I don't know whatever happened with Albert after all these years, but Jimmy would appear in a documentary about Ricky Castle titled Satan in the Suburbs that was released in the year 2000. There's an interview with Jimmy as well. Jimmy says he never really was pissed at Ricky after his death. He was mostly angry that he got himself in this mess. He also apologizes to Gary's parents and wished he was sober that night. I read a comment that Ricky's father had died of Lyme disease in the early 90s.
Damn.
Another that said Ricky's father was a piece of shit.
Damn.
But a crazy thing did happen with Jimmy. On October 9, 2004, he was arrested for robbing CVS Pharmacy, trying to get Oxycontin and fentanyl patches. He left a note to someone behind the cash register saying this.
Percocet. Oh, he was getting 40s and 20s?
He was sentenced to 12.5 years. Last thing I could find was a comment saying he's happily married now. In that same interview, Jimmy was asked what he would tell Ricky if he was here right now.
Hope you said your prayers before you hung up.
Hope you say your prayers before you hung up, boy.
It's been 37 years since the murder of Gary Lauwers, and this case is still talked about a lot, but I barely find any YouTube videos on it. There was a documentary on this case that was released back in 2019, however it's unavailable. You can watch Satan in the Suburbs here on YouTube. I'll leave a link to the playlist down below, as well as the interview with Jimmy.
That nigga didn't have a good life.
There's a film based on this case titled Ricky 6, which is also available here on YouTube. I'll link that as well. It's unfortunate we will most likely never know what really happened that night. Both of the surviving teenagers couldn't keep their story straight, and the one who confessed to the crime is gone. So, maybe Eric is right. Maybe only God will ever know what really happened.
We're gonna stop that right there. We don't even need to hear all that bullshit. What the fuck was that? That shit scared me. No, I don't like music like that. We're gonna leave that right there. Yeah, that's gonna be the end of this video. I'm gonna need y'all to like, comment, subscribe, and turn in post notifications on. If you already got them on, you to go. On my mama, keep being you and do great. I'm gone. Peace.